The pictorialists had a specific way of editing their photos so that they were very warm. And back then, you know, they didn't have access to color film. So everything was done in black and white and then developed in such a way where they created those really warm tonalities. So what I'm going to do is show you how to do this in Photoshop. So we're going to start with a couple of color photos, and what you choose is pretty much up to you. However, some of these will work better than others. When they're put into more of a monochromatic color scheme, you'll notice that a lot of the tonality might be lost that usually is separated by the individual color. So we'll take a look here. So to get started, you're going to have your photos opened up in Photoshop. From there, what you're going to do is you need to make sure you have your layers palette open. Okay, so that's right here. If you don't, you'll go up to window and you'll just find layers right there. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, now I'm in my layers palette, I'm going to go down towards the bottom and I'm going to find this button right here, and this adds a layer adjustment. And basically, I usually call this kind of a yin-yang type of thing, but what it does is it allows you to make adjustments to your photos without adding like destructive editing to that. Okay, so you can always remove it and it won't hurt the original photo. All right, so I'm going to go to black and white, and you'll see that here. So see how it adds a separate layer, so it's not actually affecting our original photo, and I can turn it off at any time. Okay, now once I have this black and white adjustment layer, what you'll notice is you'll have a properties palette that will open up, and it will basically give you all these options that you can kind of play with. So there's different presets, and this is where I suggest you start until you like learn what each individual color can do. But if you go in here, you'll start to see that this blue filter, for example, kind of wiped out the sky. So that's not a very good decision. What we're looking for is we're looking for some bright whites, some dark blacks, and then a whole range of different gray tones. Okay, so that one actually looks pretty good. We're going to keep it at this for right now. Then once you have that and you're satisfied with it, you're going to again go back to that layer adjustment button, and you're going to go to photo filter. Now in this is where we get to add basically our color. So up here, again, just like before, it pretty much has all these presets. Now, if we're going to be trying to make this look like a pictorialist style photo, we want to keep it in the warm range. Okay, so you have all these warm filters. You also have red, orange, yellow, right? You also have down here, you have a sepia. Okay, so you can do something like that. And you can kind of, the density right here, you can kind of see what's happening if you look at the photo, but all the way down, it's not very noticeable. And then when I bring it way up, it gets more and more noticeable. So it's pretty much going to be up to you, like your personal preference. Now, if you don't want to use one of these like set filters, what you could do is click on color here, and this will open up your color picker. And then the same thing, like you can choose your hue in this area, and again you're trying to stick to the warmer tones, and then you kind of play with your values here. So the more you bring it into the white or down into the black range, the less noticeable you're going to notice this working. So you want to kind of keep it in the purest of color over here to the right. And then if I click OK, and then I come in here and I can kind of add to it. So and then this preserve luminosity checkbox right here, you definitely want to keep this checked because this is basically, it keeps it bright. Okay, so that's how that works. So let me show you another example of one that is not so great. So here's an example of a photo where you have all these different colors, and without really knowing, they're all pretty much the exact same tonality. Okay, meaning one isn't brighter or more contrasty than another. So when I make this black and white, what you'll notice is that it's now pretty muddy looking. There aren't any really bright whites aside from right here, and there aren't any dark blacks either. Okay, so the whole thing is pretty much the same value of gray, which doesn't make that a good contender for a black and white picture. Okay, because we're sticking with the whole pictorialist theme, still lifes, portraits, and landscapes are all pretty much your best bet. So we're going to click on this and add a black and white adjustment layer, and then go back to that because that looks pretty decent. So I don't feel like I need to make a lot of, additions up there. Go to photo filter, click on that, And same thing, I can just warm that up a little bit. And there, I've created 2 images now in the style of the Pictorialist. So at this point, you're going to need to know how to save these images. So once you're done and you're ready to turn stuff in, right, we're going to go to File and we're going to go down to Save As. Okay, so you have choices. So right here, I'm going to call this Pictorialist example 1. Okay. Photoshop, you're going to keep this Photoshop if you're not done working with it and you think you're going to come back and further edit it. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow you to keep these adjustment layers here. And that way you can continue to edit them. Okay. But now if you're done, we're going to go down to JPEG. And what JPEG is going to do, it's going to come over to your layers palette and it's going to basically compress it into one solid layer, which basically means you can no longer edit these individual layers. It becomes something new. So the color information is gone. So JPEGs save space. They're compression files. Now, what that means is they take up less space on your computer, but in doing so, it removes unnecessary, or what it believes is unnecessary information. So you don't really want to save it as a JPEG until you're done with it. Okay. All right. So the other thing is you want to make sure you save it where you want it. So I had a folder here, but what I could do is save it to my desktop. That way I can easily find it. Then I'm just going to go down to Save. And what you'll notice is this is your JPEG options box. And as far as quality goes, if you're going to print it, yes, absolutely keep it at 12. But if you're not, you can probably bump it down to 10. I don't know if I'd go too much lower than that, but it does save just a little bit of space, okay? Especially if you're needing that. So I'll click OK, and then it's done and it's going to be on my desktop. So that's it, you guys. That's how we edit in the Pictorialist style.